Hello and welcome to Tech is for Everyone, the podcast series that deep dives into tech professionals' journeys using their experience to get you the best hints and tips to break into the world of tech. Just starting your career or looking to sidestep into a new industry or wanting to climb through the ranks, tune in and get ready to be inspired. On this episode, I'm joined by Herd Consulting's Jamie Toyne. Tune in to find out how Jamie went from wanting to be a vet to working in a call centre to becoming a leading figure in the world of business analysis. Amongst other things, we talk about how people can be more challenging than tech and some of the common myths of business analysis.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming in. Thanks for having a chat with us.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, no worries at all. So I'll start with the stock question that I'm going to ask everyone. It's a very broad generalist question, and it's what does technology mean to you?
Good question. Technology for me, I think, means about enabling things for people and hopefully making people's lives better. I think, put simply, and I think, so much emphasis often is on tech in terms of the product or the service and not really enough on what it enables you to do and what value it helps to create. So probably a very BA answer to technology, but that's what tech means to me anyway.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So did you always want to work in BA, in the world of BA?
No, being really honest. I wanted to be a vet until I was about 14.
Me too, to be fair.
Did you?
Yeah.
I genuinely did not know that. This was not planned.
Yeah, genuinely, yeah.
I realised I was really, really rubbish at chemistry and biology.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, and also I didn't really fancy putting dogs down. So, other animals as well, of course.
Yeah,
I'm not, not keen.
Cats you fine.
Yeah, cat's fine. I was really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to be a vet, and I didn't know you did too. I mean, yeah. What age did you stop wanting to be a vet?
I reckon I probably stopped at about what age do you determine your GCSEs? It's like 14, isn't it?
Yeah.
I looked at it and I thought that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I'll do art instead. That's the least amount of work I can possibly get away with. But I did look at it actually. Funnily enough, when I started in recruitment, did 6 months, hated it, and was like, how can I transition to be a vet? And I looked at it again and went, yeah, no, that's too much work. I'm not going to do that.
It's a lot of work, isn't it? A lot of work. Yeah. So, well, there we are. We couldn't have been here today. We could be on a vet podcast instead.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought it, eh? Yeah. But yeah, I wanted to be a vet, and we both want to be a vet, and similar reasons, like it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Probably science wasn't my strong, particularly chemistry and biology wasn't my strongest sort of subjects, and then ended up studying different things, more like business and IT and economics and that kind of thing, and more mathsy type stuff. And yeah, like most people, I ended up falling into business analysis, and I was working in a call centre during my A-levels, bit of a beer money job. Sure we all had them.
Yeah.
Call centres paid a little bit more than the supermarket, so I thought that sounds an easy gig.
Yeah.
And working for RAC, so for the windscreen side.
Yeah.
So weirdly, as an 18-year-old lad, I knew a lot about windscreens,
replacing the chips and all that.
Yeah, so I think I can remember all the different stats and facts. And then I ended up being asked. They said, "You're young and you're all right on computers and you can talk to people. Do you fancy trying out this new system?"
Right.
And I was like, "Well, yeah, I can do. I was only part time." And they said, "Well, you think you'll stay on full time after your A levels?" And the long story how I ended up doing that, but I did end up staying on full time after my A levels, and ended up training 200 and something people in this call centre how to use this system. It was badged, one system to replace them all.
Right.
Surprise, it was two. And ended up training out all these people how to use this new system. And then they said, "Oh, can you go around the country and train people how to fit windscreens? But I'm very good on computers, how to use this new computer system." And it's like, yeah, of course I can.
Yeah.
Got given this Ford Focus by a transport manager.
Right.
Brand new, and he looked afraid for his life. Was giving it to an 18-year-old that passed his test 3 months before, whatever form was called. And he said, "Do you know how to drive these things?" I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Almost crashed it day one, like you do.
As you do, yeah.
But yeah, I travel around the country training blokes who knew a lot about windscreens, how to use a computer.
How to use tech, right?
Yeah, and how to use this new Oracle-based system and sort of things that sat around it. And then after that, they said, "Oh, you know a lot about the systems and all that.
Yeah.
Do you fancy staying on to help us do some process improvement type work?" And before I knew it, I was doing a type of business analysis role with just really a title of seconded.
Right.
Pretty much. It's gone from a call centre into this.
But anything to get you off the phones and speaking to people.
Exactly, yeah, and out and about, and travelling, etc., and crashing this Ford Focus around, which I couldn't afford to buy myself.
Yeah.
So that's how I fell into it.
Did you have to know stuff about the system itself then? I mean, were you fairly technical, or was it more just that actually you just knew how to speak about the tech?
I was more technical then than I probably am now.
Yeah.
Being really honest. So I was a bit more into stuff. I was building websites with like HTML. So pretty IT literate. And so I didn't know about Oracle before. I'm quite an 18-year-old that was like desperate to learn about Oracle or anything before, but learned about it quite quickly, and being pretty IT literate. Probably more focused on the system side rather than the process side, being really honest.
Right.
I felt more comfortable at the time, and then as become like an SME in it, we said, okay, help look at some process improvement, help look at some of these change requests coming through and try and impact assess them. I was like, no training, just sort of thrown into the deep end, shadowed a few people, and thought, that's what it must be. I'll do this and I'll do that.
Yeah.
And like I say, that's sort of how I fell into it. But I didn't have the title, but that's how I fell into doing aspects of business analysis. And then after that, carried on within the career, bar a couple of deviations along the way. One wasn't a vet.
I was going to say, you didn't look back at some point and go,
I should have done.
What could have been?
I should have done, but I didn't. No.
It's not too late.
It's not too.
So you just jack it all in now and go and retrain. So, what's the one thing about your role that you didn't necessarily expect?
I think in a lot of tech type roles, a lot of whether it's business analysis, whether it's being a dev, whether it's being delivery manager or whatever. I think there's a lot of focus, and rightly so, but on the tech itself. But in the type of role that I do in particular, actually, the hardest thing really often isn't the tech.
Right.
It's the people side. And, you're taking people through a journey of change. You're changing something, and you're changing something how that business works. You're changing everything that sits around in terms of processes, or you might be introducing a new service to people to use in terms of the end customer, the end user. And taking people on that journey is often harder than the tech itself.
Yeah.
Tech, to a certain extent, you can learn about it. There's only so many parameters and things you can do.
Yeah.
People are much more complicated. And I guess I probably didn't always appreciate that until later on as I got exposed to more and more stuff, and actually taking people along on the journey of changing something, that often is centred around tech in some kind of way, yes, albeit there's other things that come with it too, is the thing that, like I say, I only really appreciated after a few years in of doing business analysis.
Yeah. It's
very easy to focus on tech or process and often forget about the thing that's just as important, if not more important.
Yeah. Well, I guess the tech in theory, tech does change, so it's a bit of a sweeping statement, but the tech does a job. It's a product. You plug it in and it'll either be a website, or it will be a dashboard that reports on, or it will be a piece of cloud software or whatever it might be. There's not much to necessarily change or influence, whereas I guess when you're dealing with a human, you've got the emotional element to it. You've got everything else that comes with change. I mean, humans are inherently not like change, are they? It's a bit of a scary thing to have to go through. So I can imagine you've got a lot of educating to do when it comes to benefits of certain things.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly. And benefits is the right word in terms of trying to sell people what they're going to get that's going to make their life better in some kind of way. But also, actually, one of the things I often found, I don't know if you found this as well, James, but people who work in tech or change type roles are often the most reluctant to change stuff. It's like, what you do, this is a job, this is what you do, this is the world you work in. I don't want to change that. And actually, it's often not the end user, it's often not sort of operational teams and colleagues, where if you really position it in a good way, most people can see the rationale and the end goal you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
But actually, if you're changing anything that impacts people who work in tech, that's the really skillful bit. That's the bit where you can get some nice bruises and scars, I think, over the years.
Yeah. That's the stuff that well, I was going to say leads you to do what you do and why you're good at what you do. I guess people come to you and ask the expertise and the advice because you've got the scars from already having sort of walked that path.
Yeah, I guess so. And I think you need. There's only so much you can learn theoretically, isn't there? And you've got to get out there and do stuff. And I think that's true for any profession, but especially in sort of the world we work in.
Yeah. Is there like a common myth you would say about working in the world of BA?
Yeah, I think there's a few. How many answers can I give? Well, I guess the one I'll start off with, because this is often a myth, I think, for BA and in every role, but particularly BA, is that you need to have a degree. I'd love to, if there's one piece of advice and there's one thing that hopefully can be shared, and so people who are considering going into world of business analysis, and if you don't have a degree in particular, or thinking, should I get a degree first, and is that important? I just want to say you don't need a degree. You really don't need a degree to be a great business analyst. By having a degree, can you be a great business analyst? Of course, but that is not a prerequisite that's needed. If you've got a degree, brilliant. If you've not got a degree, also brilliant. And I've not got a degree. I'll happily say it. I was always quite shy about saying I've not got a degree. If I'm honest, in the past, it was always that thing like, ooh, a little bit different because I haven't got a degree. Yeah. And I mean, not just a veterinary science degree. I mean, any degree.
Yeah.
And so I was always a bit, I guess it always was a thing I held back. I never really spoke about it, particularly as I got sort of mid-20s, late 20s, even to probably a couple of years ago. It was a thing that I probably really always just brushed over when people were talking about, what university to go to, what degree you study. Yeah. So I think that's number one. That's definitely a myth that I'd love to be gotten rid of and move away from that. I think the other thing is actually that you have to be brilliant with numbers, and I think people see analyst and instantly think numbers. And actually, there's lots of flavours of analyst, isn't there? Analyst is just a type of thing that you do, but it's the word that goes with it is the important bit.
Yeah.
I'm not saying business analyst is actually the best title often of what we do, because quite often these days you might be looking for a product lens or looking at something that's a service being consumed by end users, but it's that analyst bit on its own. I think people can say, "Oh, I must be a brilliant mathematician." Yeah. And to be a great business analyst, you don't need to be a brilliant mathematician. Right. Helps if you're relatively good at numbers in terms of the basics of numbers, in terms of you can quantify financial benefits and everything else, but you get trained on that.
Yeah.
You get trained on that. So even if you don't know that now or aren't that comfortable, you genuinely can learn that kind of stuff. That kind of support and courses and support in terms of mentors and coaches. Yeah. And I think the things that are more important are the things are, if you're collaborative and have that collaborative nature, are you curious, and can you communicate with people? And I think for me that those three things are a lot more important than certainly having a degree and to be honest, having that strong mathematical mind. That they're the things that are really, really important. Yeah. The rest you can learn.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's nice to hear. I think that's that first point especially, is I think a common myth across all of tech. Yeah, not just the world of BA. It's I have to have gone and done a computer science degree, and that's not to say that isn't a good path to go down. It certainly is. A lot through the 3 years, but a little bit like yourself, I didn't go to uni. Well, I did go to uni. I went to uni to do art, and dropped out after 6 months because I realised that you basically have to be dead to earn money from art. So I didn't want to be dead. So I thought, right, I'm going to leave that degree there and go into the world of work. But I think there are plenty of other ways to gain the experience you need in industry. I guess you just need to find that way in, and you need someone to take a bit of a chance, don't you, to go and teach someone about that Oracle-based system, to install windscreens and stuff like that. So, but no, that's really good. So, if you weren't a BA, what other job in tech would you want to do?
Ooh, good question. I think if you asked me this very early on, I think it'd have been probably a different answer. Right. I'd have probably gone down more like probably a delivery manager or something more in data. But now, to be honest, I'd say product. Product is the other thing that I've had exposure to and worked in, and is the thing that I'm passionate about. And I think for me, there's a huge amount of transferable skills, but there's also a very transferable mindset as well that's needed across the two roles. And so even though it's probably not the most adventurous answer, it's the one that I think I confidently would enjoy. Yeah. And I think could do a good job in. And so it's that. I should have said something more exciting or something more like radical or random, shouldn't I? Maybe do an outtake and I can think of something that's more radical.
Yeah. Be an app developer for software to save dying cats and dogs and link that to the veterinary angle.
Exactly.
Go down that route.
I'd be the product manager for that, I think, instead for that app. That's what I'd be. Yeah. But what would you do anyway? What would you have done? What would your
if I wasn't doing this, oh gosh, if I was going to go into tech, I would go and I'd go and do something design orientated, so not necessarily development. I'd be useless in code. I'd get lost. But if it was designing the front end of something, or even in the world of products maybe, but focusing on the design element of the product rather than, I guess, the techie back end stuff in terms of what it does, that's where I'd be comfortable. I kind of leverage that 6 months of art degree to the best of its ability, and go into the design world.
That makes sense. I mean, if you've got that creative sort of excitement about doing creative stuff as well, it's a good way to satisfy it. So, you don't have to be dead to be a good designer either, do you?
It's always a bonus. So, in your opinion, what's the sort of most important personality traits to be successful in your world?
Yeah, for me, this is an easy one, and I think I touched on a little bit earlier, but curiosity is so important to be a great analyst, to be a great business analyst, and I think, it's fine being curious, but you need to do something with it. So having that courage to take that curiosity and then have that conversation with people, or to dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
So I think curiosity on its own without courage, I don't think has the same kind of impact. I think curiosity and courage, sort of best friends, and I think they work really, really well together. And it's one of those things that's really hard to sort of coach or to teach someone to be curious. You either are curious or you aren't curious.
Yeah.
And if you're almost like fatally curious, you're not really curious. It's a learned, something you've learned to do, but you're not really, you might not really naturally want to find out more. So I think that's something that's really, really important. And when we're hiring for entry-level talent, both in Herd, but also in life prior to Herd, that was always one of the things that we look to test is, are you curious? How do you have that curiosity? And we sort of simulate that around an exercise, and then we also try and test out that courageous element as well in terms of doing something with it. There's no point being curious and then not doing anything with it. Otherwise, it's just internal curiosity, and it's not helping to realise anything. And I think the other two things you touched on earlier, which were completely stand by, are that being able to work with people, that collaborative nature, and that ability to communicate. It doesn't really have to be a top wordsmith or content designer or anything like that to be a brilliant communicator, but just being able to build that rapport with people, and particularly taking them through something that is a period of change, a period of unsettling time. Yeah. But also to then take that curiosity and do something with it in a way that's doesn't feel like you're a toddler asking 5 whys or something like that.
When you've asked 5 whys, you have to ask one more apparently.
Yeah,
from what I've been told.
There you are. Yeah, I've heard that as well. But it's a style to that, isn't there? And that style has to come out in your own way, but also it needs to come out in a way that's not like you're actually interviewing or interrogating someone. And I think as well, not interviewing, but interrogating someone. I think that's the real challenge. But if you don't have that sort of empathetic and collaborative approach, it can come across quite sort of harsh and cold and tick boxy when actually it really isn't that, and it shouldn't be that. Yeah. So for me, they're the things we look for, and I think it's just as true as someone coming at an entry level, all the way up to someone who's a lead or a principal or a head of level. And I think that those things will set you up for good success. A lot of the other stuff you can learn through time and patience and experience, and through learning through reading stuff and going on courses. These personality traits are really the sort of the bedrock, the foundation of everything what makes a great business analyst.
You mentioned about the 5 whys and that kind of that whole, it's like toddler mindset, isn't it? You can tell the difference between a toddler that is curious and he's asking why because they genuinely want to understand why, and you can always see that inquisitive nature. And when your toddler's just been an awkward so and so, and they're just saying why, and I guess, and this is a really crude example, obviously, but you want to be that toddler that is asking why because you are curious and you want to understand the answer, rather than just being an annoying little beep.
Yeah, beep. Exactly. But I say actually, I think with a toddler, I mean, speak from experience of having one toddler. Yeah, you've got double the amount of experience than I have, James. But with regards to toddlers, I think actually one thing around curiosity that stands out is actually that courageous element of curiosity. There's always that courage in a toddler, isn't there? And actually, you don't have those inhibitions maybe the same kind of way as you do as you get older. Yeah. But I think that courageous element of the toddler in being curious is something that is really, really good and will set you up as an analyst. But you need the other stuff so you don't sound like a toddler.
I'm not trying to just make your job sound like you're a 2-year-old.
So we are recruiting toddlers very soon out of our 25-year VA academy.
Oh yeah, I mean, how young do you teach them? You know? The importance in nurseries to educate in tech.
Exactly.
So what would you say is like the most important sort of lesson you've learned then over your career so far?
A lot, but I think from a business analysis perspective, I think not trying to boil the ocean initially, and I think trying to focus on something high level and really take it down. I think too often people jump in to try and look at the detail and get overwhelmed, and it takes too long. But actually, by doing that, you're missing out so many different thought processes that you go through. But also, it makes it very, very difficult then to bring people along if you go straight into something very, very detailed. So that transition of going from something high level to something to slightly lower level, and gradually working that down in sort of tiers is really, really important. And I won't go into all the techniques that's around all that, but I think a very simplistic level is really important to do that. And I think otherwise it can make what you're talking about very, very difficult for people to engage with, and also you can lose people along the way, and that's the last thing you want to do.
Yeah,
is lose people along the way as an analyst. I think more from a leadership perspective, I think the thing for me is, and it's the thing that everyone says, but it's so true, but also so hard to get right, is to listen.
Yeah,
I'm sure probably a lot of people on this podcast series might say something similar, but I think that's because there's so much truth and weight in it, and actually being a great listener is, we all know, one of the hardest things to do in the world, right?
Yeah.
It's quite easy to be a good talker. It's quite easy to go and, or to some extent, quite easy to go and stand up in a room and talk about a topic you're really passionate about. But to really listen to people and listen to a whole variety of people, talking about a whole variety of different things, can make, I think, it's sort of everything really. And it's everything in terms of it builds trust. It's everything in terms of listening and trying to pick out people's ideas and suggestions or feedback. Even if it's not necessarily a positive thing in terms of, let's go and do this. It might be more of, I need to take that on board.
And there lies the difference between a toddler and a BA.
Exactly. Exactly. There's a book coming out soon, actually. So we'll pop the link. There really isn't a book coming out soon. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think, and to be honest, that's just as important as being a great business analyst too. But I think even more so as a leader, it's very, very easy, I think, to fall in the trap of trying to be the answer to everyone's problem, or trying to provide the answer to everyone's problem.
Yeah.
And it's very, very tough sometimes to take a step back and go, okay, let's really listen to what's going on here. Because I might have misunderstood it. Chances are I will have misunderstood it. But also, most people have got an idea of how to solve a problem.
Yeah.
If they're working it particularly day to day, they'll know how to solve that problem probably a lot better than I will or anyone else will.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest thing. What's yours?
I mean, the listening thing is quite a good point, to be fair, because
it's quite good though.
It's quite good, yeah, quite good. I think particularly if you're client facing, in the world of tech recruitment, we deal with different clients who all have similar but very different problems, but issues that they need to address when it comes to finding technical skills. And one person's requirement, whilst on paper you might view two documents and they're the same thing, but actually what they want out of someone is completely different to what someone over here wants out of them. So it's understanding the differences, listening enough that you understand the difference between what the requirements are, and then obviously acting accordingly. But I would say not necessarily a personality trait, but a really important attribute is just following through on what you say that you're going to do. Not sort of over-promising, under-delivering, because, yes, okay, you might be coming to buy from Qualcomm, but you're coming to buy from James Taylor or someone else in the business. And if you say you're going to do something, then you need to deliver on that. And if you can't, then you need to have good enough communication skills that you can be open and honest about why maybe you're not achieving it. Because your reputation is everything. That's what I'd say. Along with listening, good communication skills, and deliver on promises.
I like that. I think that's even more than quite good for me. That's a good one.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's quite good.
Not quite good. Good.
That's good.
Thanks, mate. Thanks. We'll cut that bit out. It's really good.
It's actually really, really good.
It's an excellent answer. So, Do you have a productivity hack? What would your favourite one be?
Well, we were chatting about this before we started the podcast. As a parent, as a dad of a toddler and another one on the way, and I know you've got two, albeit a little bit older. Sleep. I mean, it's the obvious one, isn't it? Getting sleep. I mean,
What's that?
Yeah, I used to have it years ago. I remember it was probably about 2.5 years ago. We used to actually sleep all the way through the night. I think I went to sleep at 11 and woke up at 7. It was 8 hours. I know. Whereas now I think it's more, we go to sleep at 2 and wake up at 5. But sleep. I think that's important. I'm certain it is.
I'm making note of that one.
Yeah, go for that one down. Yeah. Sleep. Yeah, if you can, try and get sleep.
Try and get sleep.
Yeah, it's a nice luxury, but if you can get it. Yeah. But I feel like the expectation's on me now to say that I carve my time up into 15-minute chunks and I live by it, in which case we're 2 minutes over. Yeah. But no, I've got nothing like that. I think for me, something I genuinely do is I make a list of the things I want to achieve that day and I try and make it a small number. Yeah. So I make a list of typically 5 or 6 things I want to do that day. Right. And for me, I guess that gives me a sense of satisfaction, A, that I've done them, but also B, allows me to focus on the core things. And that's something I've done for, well before setting up Herd. It's something I've done for at least sort of 5 or 6 years or so. And I find that works for me, particularly as you get a certain level in your career. It feels like there's always 100 things to do. Yeah. And then since setting up a business, it feels like there's always 200 or 300 things. Yeah. And you can't do them all. Yeah. So for me, focusing on what those top 5 or 6 things are is really important. And arguably that's something, yes, it's a BA technique, it's prioritization, but it's making that more, for me, ingrained in my day-to-day sort of thinking. And that, I don't really go through a prioritization exercise in terms of let's do a Moscow rating and let's work out, the impact of delaying this. And I don't do that. It's more instinctive than that. But for me, starting it off at the beginning of the day and having that sort of checklist that I can go through, I find really important. Yeah. And the other thing is actually making sure that for people in my team in particular, I like taking the dog for a walk at a certain time, right? Okay. Or time-ish, and for me that allows me then to sort of almost get like a reset, refresh, come back, and I can do 2 or 3 hours after of more focused time, and often put a podcast on. Although of recent it's taking a toddler with me, it doesn't quite feel like a reset and take a toddler with me. But if I'm listening to podcasts or putting some music on or whatever, taking the dogs out, going for a good walk. Yeah, sort of around 3:30ish, that kind of time. Yeah, come back, and then I have 2 or 3 hours later on before put the little one to bed. I think it helps me at least. Yeah, it's something that's good for me, and I know it is. So everyone's got their own, but that's your personal thing for me. Yeah, no, cool. So if you had one piece of advice for someone who wants to get into business analysis, what would it be? I think understand the way you learn is probably the main bit of advice, and I'll unpack that a little bit. I know it's quite a broad thing to say, but I'll leave it there. But now there's so many routes into business analysis, so many structured routes into business analysis, and I think when you talk to people, particularly people who've been in business analysts for a few years or more, they'll say they fell into it. Yeah. And you still can fall into it. Yeah, you really can, of course. But if you're looking for a route in, there's many routes, and I think, yes, there's graduate programs, of course there are, and they're sort of as credible today as they were before. But actually now there's an apprenticeship program. There's a level 4 apprenticeship. That I think for me breaks down some of those barriers and opens it even further. Yeah. And there's lots and lots of great organisations offering that apprenticeship program. I think the other route, and arguably you and I might be slightly biased in talking about this other route, but is actually what I call almost like apprenticeship plus. And for me that is reputable providers providing academy-based learning. Yeah. So for me, yes, there's some kind of formal learning that's the centre of that, but it's that support wrapper that you get an opportunity to really go and do things in practice in real life. Yeah. And typically within different stages of projects or products or services that you're working on rather than just one thing. Yeah. And that sort of rotation between them. And I think that academy wrapper is something that hasn't been there until very, very recently in a credible way. Yeah. But now I think there are a number of providers, not just in business analysis, but in lots of different professions. Yeah. That it's a really good route. And again, with most of those, you don't need a degree. Yeah. And you can come into it at any point in your life. You haven't got to be just an 18-year-old or 21-year-old. You can come into that at any stage in your life. And if anyone's out there who's a vet and wants to become a business analyst, yeah, brilliant. Let me know. Get in contact. It'd be nice to swap stories. Yeah. Find out what I missed. Yeah. But yeah, there's lots of routes. But I think for me, apprenticeship, yes, there's graduate programs,
Yeah.
but the academies as well. And actually most people in tech and a bit biased, everyone in business analysis pretty much are friendly people and they want to support people getting in. So just reach out to someone who's a lead business analyst or head of business analysis, and chances are they'll find a way if you want to get into it, they'll find a way to support you, given the constraints of what they can offer in their organisation.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my top advice, I guess.
Great. And just lastly, what's the one question that you wish that I'd asked you?
Well, I wish you'd asked me about Global Business Analysis Day.
Right. Okay.
So
how would you have answered?
So I'll tell you when it is. So every year is Global Business Analysis Day on the 1st of November.
Okay.
Global, it really is global. It's not just a UK thing. But this year, for the first time, there is something called BA School Day, and it's to raise awareness of business analysis with people who are in school, with kids who are in school. And that's of all ages. So people across the world actually are, going in to talk to their local schools or colleges of different ages to raise the profile of what business analysis is. And so less people actually fall into business analysis. And hopefully, if there's any kids there that want to become a vet or anything else, they might also consider business analysis.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can find it out if you Google BA School Day. We can put the link on the top as well. Look out for that. And if you are in business analysis and want to get involved, it doesn't have to be on the 1st of November to coincide with Global Business Analysis Day. You can do it, any time really. But have a look for that, and let's get more people wanting to be a BA in schools.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you coming in. Thanks for your time.
Likewise, good to be here.
Yeah,
thank you.
Great, thanks.
Thank you for listening to Tech is for Everyone. If you're looking to start your career in tech or want to know more about how our academy can help grow and diversify your teams, then find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, or via the Qualcomm Tech Academy website. Links can be found in the description. Look forward to having you join us on the next episode.